Actually, if we could put slide number 1 back up there. And Mr. Waltzer, good morning. Thank you to you and all of our witnesses for being here. Slide 1, I held it up earlier, and it will be on the screen in a moment, depicts about 600 coal plants across the country. Are you familiar with this map and these plants? And would you agree, Mr. Waltzer, that the proposed regulations that the EPA have put out will not affect a single plant that is on that map?
Absolutely. Even before this rule was contemplated, and even before gas prices went through the floor, there was no new coal plant that was proposed without CCS. Any new coal plant today that has been seriously proposed will meet the new coal plant standard. For existing units, this rule doesn't apply, so it's not going to have any effect on them.
And Mr. Waltzer, how many jobs at existing coal plants will be lost because of these regulations for future plants?
There will be no, I think it's simple logic that if the rule does not apply to existing units, it will not affect jobs at existing units, so no jobs.
And Mr. McConnell, would you agree that these regulations will not affect a single job at a currently existing plant?
No, I wouldn't.
Okay. Would you agree, so it's your position that if I have a job today at a coal plant that's already in existence, I'm at risk of losing my job at that plant because of rules for plants that have not been built?
I think if we focus the argument strictly on one particular pollutant criteria, we could build an argument around it, but it's much more complex than that. It's the future uncertainty of rulings. It's the combination of NOx, SOx, suspended particulate, mercury, all of the criteria pollutants, and the landscape associated with that uncertainty going forward. You see a tremendous amount of retirements going on across the country today, some 50 gigawatts of retirement.
But, Mr. McConnell, the 600 plants that are in existence, you agree these rules do not directly affect those plants?
No, I don't. Again, as I go back to the interconnection of all the rulings and the future uncertainty of it, that has a multiplying effect to the future of all of those coal plants.
But you can't give me an accurate number as to how many jobs are going to be lost at a current plant because of regulations for future plants, can you?
No, I'm not able to provide that kind of information. No, sir. Again, it's all part of the future that you or I can't predict.
And you would agree, though, that 120,000 jobs lost in 16 days during a government shutdown, that's probably greater than the amount of jobs we can say will be lost at existing plants?
I'm not in a position to comment on that.
I would hope, though, Mr. McConnell, that you could comment on something I think you and I may agree upon, which is that sequestration has affected our ability to make necessary investments in technology when it comes to carbon capture, use, and storage technologies. Would you agree that that is not helping us learn more about what that technology could do?
What I could agree on was that when I took the job in 2010 and we projected for the next 10 years that we would stay at a certain level of funding for fossil energy to move forward and to achieve a commercially demonstrated technology by 2020, and then seeing the fossil budget cut year over year with the administrative requests going down while the overall Department of Energy goes up, that made it very difficult to achieve those targets and makes it all the more difficult to understand how we can get demonstrated technology in place any earlier than 2020, certainly.
Thank you, Mr. McConnell. And Mr. Waltzer, can you just go into detail for us about the current competition between the coal and natural gas industries and whether that competition is at least a partial reason, if not the primary reason, for the retirement and lack of construction of new coal plants across the country? And then could you just let us know, what would the cost of doing nothing be? Suppose we threw out these regulations and just did nothing. What would the cost to the environment and economy be?
So Here's what I would say. Project developers today are building natural gas plants instead of coal plants primarily because of where gas prices are. That's what's happening in the market. In terms of existing units, gas prices had gotten so low that we, for the first time ever, had seen coal boilers switch over to natural gas, which many of us thought would never happen. But that's starting to come back. And so as gas prices are going up, we're starting to see existing unit coal generation come back on the system. But because of where gas prices are, we don't foresee, or at least looking at the market tells us there are no plans for developing new coal projects because of where gas prices are today.
Thank you. And Mr. Chairman, I yield back balance of my time.